Well, I am glad you're here. Is really the cornerstone of this lit from within membership is really like how do we thrive in perimenopause and beyond? Like how do we move from the turbulence? A lot of us have gotten through the turbulence. Some people are still in that, like just the wild weirdness that happens from, I don't know, 45 till 55 for most women, although people on either side of that. So, we're really looking at how we thrive, how we thrive in this period of our lives, in the second half of life, I like to talk about. So, first is connection with self. And that, once the hormones quiet, the pull towards others' needs soften. It's not so dramatic. And for the first time, many women hear their voice really clearly. It's like the gift of discernment, knowing what you want and what you're no longer willing to tolerate and what lights you up. So if you have a journal there, or you're able to just think about these questions, I'll send these to you again. And let me see if I can actually send these questions in the chat right now. Figuring out how to do all of this good stuff. Okay, there we go. So give this a thought right now. The question is, have any of you had that experience? Like knowing something now that you couldn't access before? I'm going to give you a few minutes just to be with that. Now that you don't have that hormonal pull of estrogen making you to compromise everything and make everybody happy and fit in and all that stuff. It's really different now. It's a new spiritual calling, I say. Knowing something
Would you
now.
repeat the question for me,
Yeah,
please?
yeah. Has anyone had the experience of knowing something now that you couldn't access before? What do you know now? What are you able to bring forth now that you couldn't back when the hormones, estrogen was moderating your life?
That's a good question.
Yeah, just live with it for a little. So just a couple more seconds on that question. Just feel into it. What do you have now that you didn't have before? You know, people think of menopause as loss. And there are some things that we lose. But in my life, I would say the gain has far outweighed the loss. And that's really what this membership is about. It's recognizing the gain, recognizing the power and presence and possibility that we have now that we didn't have before. So, next possible topic here is this connection to others. Connection to first to ourself came first, but this connection to others. Historically, once you're past menopause, women held this role of truth teller, of counsel elder. Not from harshness, although sometimes the directness was pretty clear, but from freedom. You're no longer performing. What makes you feel safe for other people is this whole new way of claiming authority. And in that, your intimacy deepens. The possibility of truth telling creates a deeper presence than often we've been able to have earlier. So I was just at a funeral of a matriarch of this community who died a few months ago, and they had a beautiful memorial for her. But oh my gosh, she's been harsh with me. um, but I think what we're learning is that we bring forth the knowing that we have. If we're able to really bring that forth through our hearts, it comes out in a way that brings authority, but doesn't necessarily push people away. Though sometimes it can. So here's the question: what's changed in how you show up for the people you love? How are you different in that way? Take a breath and feel that question. What's changed in how you show up for the people you love? And journal that. Watch that. Just feel it in your body. Who are you now for the people you love? Yeah, so the last question is this connection to something larger. You know, life force energy doesn't disappear. It changes so much. It just redirects. That's what I've watched. So um, the creative, the erotic, the generative energy that once went into reproduction, if that was your choice, is now available for everything. We don't lose blood anymore. So we're creative, we're on purpose, we have a presence, a capacity for presence. Some people call it the crone's fire. And I like that. I'm still struggling with the word crone, maybe the queen's fire, but I'm coming into cronedom. And that also carries a responsibility and a gift. So I guess the next question is, where is your energy going now that it doesn't the way, okay, where is your energy going now that it didn't go before? Like what's different in the way your energy moves forward? What do you notice there? And maybe, as you said before, that it was related somehow to an identity you had to hold on to. And now there's less codependence and there's more a freedom to be all that you are without gripping onto an identity. So again, the question, where is your energy going now that it didn't go before? Give that a minute. Great. So one of the last things I want to speak to here is just, when we talk about intimacy, we tend to think about the word meaning sex. So I want to make some distinctions here. As we enter menopause, as we go through menopause, we're dealing with physical things that we may not have had before, pain and dryness, fatigue, sometimes health challenges. I've had a ton this year that make traditional sex feel like a cruel joke or not. Every one of us is different, but I see you. I really, nothing takes away intimacy from the table. It's just changing what's on the table. It's a way of looking at it. So, intimacy isn't a destination, it's a direction that we turn towards someone or someone's, or how we bring that love and care and attention. The nervous system doesn't necessarily care about penetration, it cares more about safety and attunement. So when we're not worrying about procreation, then connection has an expansiveness or a possibility, skin on skin, a hand held softly, being there like you matter and they matter. Desire in this season is so much, often for many people, more responsive than spontaneous, like it was when we were younger. It needs warmth and an invitation. That's not broken. A lot of people feel that when it's changed, that there's something broken. And I just keep inviting. It's just more honest than we were wired at 25. I think we were just so much about going for it or performance. Or again, everybody is different. But then if you're in a couple, the question isn't, or a throuple or whatever, it isn't, we can't do what we used to do. It's really, what are we willing to discover together? To have that openness, to have that possibility, that curiosity. It's so different for many of us than the story that says something's broken and we have to fix it. Just, I don't resonate with that story. You know, passion doesn't compete with physical intimacy either. It feeds it. So the woman who's lit up in her work, like you are, Jana, about your banjo playing, um, and the creativity is more alive in her body, not less. So this is the last question I want to give you, just to ponder and think about. Um, what would you want your partner slash partners slash people in your life or your own body to understand about what you need right now? What is it that you need right now? If it doesn't have to fit a definition, and neither of you are claiming that, and I'm not either, you know, we are exploring different pathways, different ways of being. But again, what would you want to understand about what you need right now? And what would you want to communicate? And how is it to communicate that? That's really the question in the second half of our life. If we're oriented towards pleasure, towards contentment, towards satisfaction, towards living what's possible now that wasn't possible before. When it's not about performance, we're done with that. You know, we were just done. Now we're really, if we want to really nurture who we are as beings, you know, what is it that we want? So we're not taking connection off the table because the old menu doesn't work anymore. We're just like rewriting the menu. You're a better chef now than you've ever been. So I invite you to give it that framework and give that a minute to just sink into. What do you want your body to know and understand about what you need right now? And what you want anybody else you're playing with to understand, or you're partnering with, or you're loving, or you're connected to. Sometimes it's just connection with a friend. You know, we're pretty phobic about connecting on a body level. You know, we might kiss and hug or give somebody a kiss at the beginning of a contact, but you don't find people reaching out to touch somebody with compassion, with kindness. We have a wall there. That's why I'm about to teach biodanza, because I'm curious about how we can let go of that wall. Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. I love what you said about wanting safety in home and wanting adventure. You know, I think that's our invitation at this point in our lives. Instead of choosing one or the other, you know, many people in the second half of their life choose comfort and they miss the adventure. They miss what's also possible, what keeps us alive and vibrant. We choose that in different ways. We may choose that to have multiple partners or to have other partners or to have a thriving musical career or to have a writing career or to be in cuddle buddies. We have so many different ways, but to not eliminate one and think that you can do that, or to be on the side of adventure and lose home. I've done that several times. And I'm looking at those choices and feeling where I'm drawn possibly in a different way, maybe bringing it a little back from the adventure end and landing in the security, which I find is also calling me at this age. So so I want to say that each of us does this differently. You know, there's no definition. We don't have to do it anyway. After menopause, really, like we're in charge. It's our agency. That's what determines who we are and what we bring to the world and our choices about intimacy, how we want to do that, what aligns with our own values and interests at this time right now. And that can change. And that probably has changed. So having that freedom is what, for me, makes it so exciting to be at this time, you know, to be this alive, to be this full of who we are, and to be able to bring that to the world, our passions, our love, our commitment to connection with ourselves, with others, with the world, and with this deeper sense of connection to something we do not understand, something that's beyond our knowing. That's the feminine, to be in this space of being in the unknown, the not knowing, not gripping on to hold something so it won't leave, but having open hands and being willing to let ourselves step beyond what's always safe and careful and held down and clamped down into a possibility of what can be here that can nurture connection. That is our opportunity in this second half of life. What's going to nurture connection and what stands in the way? My private coaching is often to help people let go of what stands in the way of just thriving at this time in our lives. So, along with that, I want to do a Qigong practice that I thought would be really interesting to practice and nurture. I'll let you know the date on that. It's probably going to be mid-month, but I'm not exactly sure. So what I'd love you to do for now, we've worked a lot with our different Qigong practices that are also in this membership, but I'd like you in this moment just to rub your hands together to feel that Qi. We know it. We know it. We know what, it's just energy in our body. Energy runs the earth, energy between the electrons in every cell, energy between the sun and the energy that holds us here on the earth in gravity. And then take your hands and put them on your dantian. That's this space in the lower part of your abdomen. And let yourself feel the heat there. And you can close your eyes and imagine that you're circulating that energy. Like I can picture it. I don't feel it quite as much as I can unless I visualize it. I'm visualizing like a swirling energy in that dantian, a couple inches below my navel, back in the center of my body. With breath, with each breath, just allow that to swirl and circle. And then imagine that energy that we're swirling and circling circulates upward and through the heart. You can visualize that rising of energy up to the heart. You can bring one hand to the heart, keep one hand there on your dantian. And then one big breath, taking a big breath in, bringing your hands forward, out in front, and then offering that energy through our hands to the self, to the others, to the world. Yeah, this is what the spiritual life looks like in the body. It's not a concept, it's a practice. It's a way of feeling an experience that lives here. Bring your hands back to your dantian. I'm making little swirling motions on my abdomen. You can bring that energy, visualizing it. You probably won't feel it for a long time, but as you visualize and you breathe, take a few breaths into that dantian, breaths out. Another breath in. Visualize it swirling there, the energy in your body. It is there. And then bring one hand up to your heart as you follow it up to your heart. Swirling that energy in your heart. Bring the other hand up to your heart. Enjoying it, imagining it, knowing that it's there, that energy in your heart, that is the light that we give to the world. One breath in, and then a breath outward as our hands go out, offering it through our hands. With ourself, from ourself, to others, to the world. It is a gift. And it's the gift we have more abundantly now than we've ever had before. This is what's cultivated in us, what the years of connection have meant, how we grow deeper and more awake and more alive. Even as our bodies take their root, as they'll do it, so that in a spiritual dimension, they say that the real possibility is that when we exit this life, we're aware of our connection, Not like when we entered as babies, as infants, we weren't aware. We were completely connected, but we weren't aware. If we can end our lives relishing and noticing and feeling and being completely connected to that connection, and then just letting ourselves fall back into the cosmos from whence we came.